Welcome to Wellness Rebranded.
We know there is so much conflicting health and fitness advice out there.
And you're tired of the wellness fads, endless diets, and impossible standards that make you feel like nothing you do is ever enough.
You're ready to tune into your mind and body and feel empowered around health.
We're the healing trio here to help you redesign your relationships with food, fitness, and yourself.
I'm Elizabeth, registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor.
I'm Maria, licensed mental health therapist.
And I'm Tara, personal trainer.
Together, we're changing the narrative on health away from diet culture, hustle culture, and toxic positivity and towards healthful self-care.
So grab your water bottle, get ready to laugh, learn, and grow, and let's start rebranding your wellness journey.
So, welcome back, guys. I want to talk about something today. There's something that I kind of say over and over and over again, and that is that you do not have to be on a diet to be deeply impacted by diet culture and diet mentality. And the best way that I can explain it, we're going to get into this and talk about why it matters and, how to recognize it and why it may be harmful and what to know about it throughout this episode. But the best way that I can demonstrate this is to share a little bit of my own personal experience. So I was never a dieter, but I was deeply impacted by diet culture in a certain period of my life. I became a vegetarian. And I'm going to give you some examples of what that looked like in my own case. So in my early 20s, I became a vegetarian. Ostensibly, I convinced myself and everybody else that it was really just kind of for health or personal preference. But really looking back, if I'm being honest, it was about viewing it as a way to achieve or maintain a certain body size. When I was pregnant with my kids, I wrote about this in a book that I've written a chapter in called We Lead. I was really, really hard on myself. I could not wait to get back into the gym, seemingly, really literally within days of having a baby, really all three of my babies. And it was truly just I really wanted to get my body back, quote unquote. And I found exercise as the way to do it. For a lot of my life before I became a dietitian and, really reevaluated my own relationship with food and learned about intuitive eating, I was kind of quote unquote the healthy one that all of my friends and people would comment on, you're so healthy, you're so disciplined, you're so this, you're so that, and come to. And really, it wasn't a healthy version of being healthy. It was very much about a rigid kind of way of eating and exercise. And so all of those are examples of ways that I personally was impacted by diet culture while never ever being a dieter. But I had that diet mentality. And so I'm curious if you guys can relate.
Yes. I think most of us can probably relate to this. I was so in diet culture and dieting. I've been dieting every day since I was probably 12, if not younger, that I've never really thought about it like this. But for sure, I think that I have been.
So let me go back for a minute. When you say you don't have to be dieting to be affected or impacted by diet culture, can you give me more examples?
More than that.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding kind of what diet mentality is, that it doesn't have to be being on a diet, but it is absorbing all of the messages about food and bodies and weight and health that our culture throws at us, and then, really internalizing them. So some other examples might be having kind of rules about what or when or how you're allowed to eat that just feel like you being maybe healthy or disciplined, but they're actually kind of more than that. Or it may be experiencing a lot of guilt for eating certain things, like believing that some foods are off limits or some are good or some are bad. It could be that belief that you have to, something seemingly so normalized or innocuous or harmless, somebody might say, you might be at a buffet, right? And somebody's choosing certain foods or loading up their plate. And then the next comment is oh, but I better make sure I get to the gym tomorrow, right? We've all heard people make comments like that. And that is probably a sign of someone's internalized diet mentality. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I get it. And it makes me think of this thing what is the saying that no cake if you don't go through pain? If
Oh, no pain, no gain.
no,
Or the
it's
cake
about
you mean.
cake. Like you can only have a cake if you go to the gym first, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Uh-huh.
can't put that cake in your body if you're not burning all those calories before or after, because then I don't know what's going to happen with the cake. But so all these tiny, subtle messages put these ideas in our head of how, like you've said before, that food has to be gained and all that stuff, but also is how we see other people. I think one thing that I never thought about before is how diet culture, it make us judge each other and then almost like go around and thinking who should be on a diet and not, or who, the judgment that we put on people when we see them eating what we consider it is too much. We are consciously or sometimes unconsciously judging how much somebody else should be eating because we've heard from diet culture that, quantity should be whatever small, or the kind of food has to be a certain way. So I think diet culture is not only how you treat yourself, but also how we learn to judge and treat other people.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And maybe it would be helpful to run through some other examples of what diet mentality could look like. And then we can talk about, well, how do you know if and when it's harmful or,
Yeah.
detrimental to you? So some other examples is you're assigning moral value to food, right? You think of it as good or bad or healthy or unhealthy or clean or junk, or use words like cheating or guilty pleasure, all of which is sort of indicating that the food has some sort of moral value in your mind, which, many of us are taught or pick up along the way in the culture that we live in. It may be believing, even if you're not on a diet, but that you need to eat a certain number of calories, or you need to eat following the plan or the kind of approved foods or by the clock, even. That could be signs of it. We talked about earning and the idea that you need to earn or burn your calories through exercise instead of just movement to make you strong or to, help with your activities of daily living, or just frankly to be fun and enjoyable. You may be mentally restricting even when you're eating freely. So in other words, maybe you're eating the foods, whatever the foods quote unquote are, but while you're eating them, you're kind of having this conversation with yourself, telling yourself that you shouldn't be, or you are planning for how you'll compensate for that later, or you're already feeling guilty for doing it, or shoulding all over yourself for doing it. That's that mental restriction, which we had a really great conversation about in a recent episode about stopping the binge. I forget exactly what the episode was called, but we talked about that mental restriction and how sneaky it can be. I think the biggest one, though, is that you really view your body as something that you're supposed to try to control or manage, or really so
Thanks.
much of the way that you look at it comes through the idea of weight and keeping it a certain size or shrinking it or trying to control it. It may be the scale, right? Maybe you're not dieting, but the scale takes up an outsized share of space in your life, or it really determines whether you have a good day or a bad day. Another way that could be really subtle is kind of what I described at the beginning, is that idea of kind of being the healthy one, right? Quote unquote. And you feel tremendous pride as like an identity that you take on, but really it's sort
Yeah.
of restriction dressed up as virtue and discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like, you're constantly getting back on track on Mondays or
Yeah.
after vacation or after a weekend, or I guess that would be Monday, but that day that comes after the weekend.
A subtle one that I see a lot are like the cute gym shirts that people will wear to the gym that have like funny phrases on them, like "we'll run for wine" or like "squats because nobody writes songs about small butts," like stuff like that. It's like diet culture, but it's so subtle and it's almost like lost under the guise of humor,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Other ones like certain foods may feel kind of dangerous because you don't trust yourself around them. Or maybe you just feel kind of anxious about eating outside of your routine. I've worked with people who it took a lot to get them to see kind of that why they were spending so much time, and food was like taking up a tremendous amount of time, energy, anxious thoughts. And then they weren't connecting them to the hidden diet mentality, I guess. in all the different ways. And like so much of the work was helping them see like you're feeling this way, but we really have to look at unpack what's coming before it and what's underneath it and what those beliefs kind of mean and how they're impacting you.
It's such a tricky like world to get out of, because as all those examples made me think, it's like so everywhere, like,
and so normalized and
It's-
so sneaky,
yeah.
subtle in some cases.
for
And
sure.
so how do you think you guys know if it's actually a problem for you or not? Like, how do you know if you're really stuck in diet mentality and it's harmful for you?
Hey friends, we are so excited to officially invite you to our next Wellness Rebranded retreat. Join us on Saturday, October 3rd at the beautiful Hidden View Farm in Crownsville for a day designed with so much intention. Expect meaningful conversations, practical tools for your emotional well-being, delicious food, laughter, connection, and time to simply breathe and be present with an incredible community of women. Women who joined us for our last retreat told us they left feeling lighter, more connected to themselves, and that it was exactly what they needed. We hope you will experience that too. We like to call it an emotionally cozy day, and we would love to spend it with you. Visit the link in our show notes to learn more and reserve your spot. We can't wait to see you in October. I think you just said it. I think that is it time consuming, and what's the impact that is having on your relationship with yourself, with your body, with food, with how is it making you feel? And the decisions that you make are focused on what, right? Is it the appearance? If it's trying to fit that mold created by, diet culture, like what is the impact? I think what is the psychological, emotional, and physical suffering you're going through to accomplish whatever it is that we think we need to accomplish?
Yeah, I think the time, the energy, the mental gymnastics, like how much of that are you feeling? And then how is it impacting your day-to-day life? Well, it's really common for people to say something like, I just wish I could like spend so much less time thinking about food. Like I'm doing these internal mental gymnastics and calculations all the time. I had someone one time describe it as a game of Tetris. And they said, it just feels like I'm just constantly slotting the things in.
And that's
it's
consuming. That's exhausting. Yes.
And I think another important part is like, I don't know, I think that the diet mentality can also intensify, but also be masked in like midlife and perimenopause. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, I absolutely see that, because it feels like perimenopause, menopause, midlife is a time where we like double down on marketing to all the women's insecurities, right? Our things are changing. Our bodies aren't the same during this time frame. And when women start to notice and question and adapt to it, all of a sudden our algorithms shows us like all these so-called solutions for the problems with our bodies, and our bodies they never really are the problem, right? It's just,
and also it can
a
get
natural change.
It can get disguised as other things. Like they're not necessarily saying it's about losing weight, although absolutely some definitely are, like that whole lose the menno belly thing. But often it's about balancing your hormones, quote unquote, which is usually code for losing weight and getting back the body that you had before. It might be, I'm trying to think of some of the other ways can you guys think of other ways that it shows up? Like it's veiled messaging. Like it really is about kind of regaining control of your body that is now, quote unquote, or seemingly you're told out of control. And it, even just building strength, right? Like there's a huge part of the conversation around perimenopause of like having to build strength and eat protein and all the things. And it is just another version of like this hidden diet / control your body mentality.
I feel like we see that a lot in like the anti-aging conversation too. And I had clients in my gym the other day talking about aging or whatever, and I was struck with the thought that like I want to age. The alternative is not aging anymore, which I don't want that. Right? I'm not ready for that. So aging and showing that my body is aging is okay with me.
Well, and also that kind of reminds me that I've had many clients over the years who really kind of ended up in the land of disordered eating and having an unhealthy relationship with food and their body. And it wasn't actually, they didn't get there through the lens of weight. They got there through the lens of wanting to optimize their health or be healthy or prevent chronic disease or brain disease or heart disease or whatever it was. But they started going down the rabbit hole, the quote unquote wellness rabbit hole. And then
Mhm.
it took them down the
Right.
disordered eating and unhealthy relationship with food and exercise in their body route. But they got there a totally different way, not really
Totally.
through weight loss.
All rabbit holes lead to diet culture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the best way I can describe of how it can look really different from dieting, but it can end up in the same place of,
Mhm.
experiencing disordered eating or having an unhealthy relationship with food in your body, or sometimes, unfortunately, even lead to a full diagnosable eating
Mhm.
disorder.
Hmm.
And, if you're someone who's been struggling in diet mentality for much of your life and you've spent a lot of your life battling food in your body and then your body's changing again during perimenopause, then you're just even more vulnerable. Like it feels
Yeah.
even worse, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, go ahead.
Or no, or you feel that it's like the moment where you need to find these answers that being promised to you everywhere, right? Because we're bombarded with all these things that we can try to stop a natural expected process
Mm-hmm.
to fight what's normal and expected again. That is,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I think part of it is just recognizing what does diet mentality look like because it may not look like how you think it looks like. Part of it is then stepping back and really asking yourself, getting curious
Mhm.
questions about how is it impacting you really? How is
Mhm.
it impacting you physically? How is it impacting you mentally? How is it
Yeah.
impacting you emotionally? How is it impacting your relationship with your body? How is it impacting you socially?
Yeah.
Right? Are you so consumed with these that you're not out living your life and doing the things that you want to be doing? So, which is another way of saying, what is it costing you?
Yeah.
Right? And then if you look at all of
Hmm.
that and you realize, yeah, actually, I think I am stuck in struggling with a diet mentality, and I think it is taking up a lot of space and it's costing me a lot of things. Then what does it look like to begin to let go of it? How do you even start?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think that awareness is like that first step, right? Like
yeah.
this conversation, even the three of us who work in diet culture all the time, I couldn't have rattled off that list that you said at the beginning of the episode of like, here's a million sneaky ways that diet culture shows up, even if you're not dieting. Like, I could have listed like three of those. And so, even having this episode to kind of open your eyes to what actually is diet culture and what's not so much I think is a great first step. And then deciding where you want to go with that,
Mhm.
I think is a good next step.
Yeah, awareness is always the first step of change, I think. And then, but I thought I would leave people with like some simple tangibles because I mean, I've talked to hundreds of women who recognize this. They kind of want to get to the other side and have a peaceful relationship with food in their body and let go of the internal struggle and diet mentality, but they're so far in it, they can't imagine what it would even look like to have peace around it. And they definitely have no idea how to get there. And so, yeah, all the things we already said of like noticing and asking the questions, getting curious. I think notice, like, here's something really simple that you can do is start to notice the language you use around food. Are you assigning moral value to food? Are you thinking about it in black and white terms? And if you are, what would it look like to be more neutral and just think of food as food? Start to notice, is your relationship with exercise wrapped up in what your body looks like or quote unquote should look like? And if so, how can you start to push back on that a tiny bit? What would it look like to either choose to exercise or choose not to exercise and separate it from what your body looks like on any given day? Noticing the thoughts underneath the behavior. If you are starting to feel anxious around certain foods or going to a restaurant and maybe not knowing what they're going to serve, or, not knowing how many calories are in the dish. Because actually, that's another sneaky way that it can show up, that I was just having a conversation with someone a couple weeks ago, is, maybe you only feel comfortable eating the food that you prepare because you know what ingredients are in it. You're comfortable with how much you're being served. You kind of generally feel like it's on your approved list, but you feel really anxious about eating food that someone else prepared or in a restaurant. That's another really sneaky way that it might show up. And then I would say, kind of more broadly, start exploring intuitive eating, because it really is a great antidote to diet mentality, and also a framework and an evidence-based way to start letting it go and then healing from it. And sometimes here's an exercise that I give to clients often, which is just start to make a note, like literally write it down on a pad of paper or put it in the note app of your phone. Start to notice all the kind of rules that pop in your head about food or exercise or other things related to that, the scale or how it impacts you. Just start to notice what all those rules are. Get them down and see how long your list is, because the length of that list is going to tell you a lot about your hidden diet mentality and your relationship with food, and where the opportunities are to make it so much more peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
This conversation is interesting to me because I was thinking of one of the things that I grew up with is like butter was like a no-go in my house. For some reason we were like, oh no, you can't have butter. It's so bad for you. And so we ate a lot of like margarine, like I can't believe it's not butter. And at that time, yeah, right. And at that time we were kind of like, well, there's this or that. There's healthy or unhealthy. And it feels like the rules around healthiness and dieting have gotten so much more convoluted since then, right? Over the last 40 years. And now it's not like, is it healthy or unhealthy? It's like, but it's seed oils, and is it organic? And organic is a scam. And like, there's just so much misinformation out there that it's hard to even like know what information is correct and how to even follow the rules.
Not that I'm
advocating to that, but yeah, the fear mongering is just crazy.
Well, and that's often what we do when people have this list, is then we're kind of going through them to kind of look at them like, are they even true? Like, you have these rules in your head, but are they actually true and backed by nutrition science? And if not, then that's important to realize. And then that is how you slowly kind of let go of them and begin. In intuitive eating, we call it challenging the food police. And that idea of fear mongering made me think that, I think it's scary to let go of diet mentality, because we feel like we can control our bodies and that's how we do it. And if we think that if we let it go, well, then what happens? Like, am I letting myself go? What's going to happen to my body? What's going to happen to my weight? Are people going to judge me? Are they going to think I'm not being healthy enough? Are they going to think I'm slacking off? Like, whatever it is. And so there's a lot of fear that can be involved in this whole process, and a lot of, I would say, mind games, right? Because think about how many of the things we just mentioned that feel normalized, or they're so sneaky and subtle that you maybe don't even realize they're a restriction or a rule or a version of diet mentality. And so I guess what I would leave people with is also, if you're really recognizing this, it's so helpful to work with a professional, an intuitive eating aligned therapist and dietitian or whomever, to really help you get through the messy middle of like, okay, now I noticed it's a problem and I kind of know where I want to end up, but how the heck do I get there? And how do I, like, there's ups and downs and mind games and all the things that go on. And so it's really, really helpful, I think, to get support, to do this work, professional support.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And to work with providers, even if you're not specifically working with them on healing your relationship with food. But, Tara, I think that's why you and I, work so well and are often kind of referring clients back and forth, because I know that if someone's going through this journey with me and they want to exercise, that you're a safe place. You're not going to be kind of undoing the work of trying to heal your relationship with food in your body. And it's not, so it's kind of all the whole, whole team.
It takes a village. Yeah.
Yeah, can support you or not support you. So that's what I got on diet mentality.
This episode reminds me of episode 105, The Myth of Short-Term Diet Success, The False Promises of Diet Culture. We did this one all the way back in October of 2024. And I remember kind of diving into those interesting sides of diet culture that we don't normally think of. So if this episode was interesting to you, go check that one out because I know that you will love it also.
Yeah, and guys, you do not have to stay stuck. I mean, we didn't even talk at all about the GLP-1 element of this conversation and the current cultural moment we're in, which frankly is just probably a whole nother episode and many episodes. And I know it's really even harder to do this work in the current climate, but I just want to leave people on a note of hope of like, you don't have to stay stuck there. There is a way out, no matter how many decades you've been struggling and battling diet mentality or food in your body, you definitely can come through on the other side. And so I just want people to know that. And if you want support, you want help, reach out. You can go to my website. You can book a free consultation call with me. You can talk to Tara. You can go to Maria's emotional fitness studio events here in Annapolis. There's lots and lots of resources that may be really helpful.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.